Hello, good evening, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Live and Conversation. My name is Daphnée Antoine.
And I am Daphnée Camilien. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. Welcome. So, Live in Conversation is a show that Daphnée Camilien and I come every Wednesday to share information with regard to immigration news, resources for family to thrive, and we also bring guests who we interview with respect to the expertise and how we can help you all. So thank you for joining us. This conversation we're going to have this evening is very important. So we ask that you kindly share, be part of the conversation, come and ask questions. So let us all raise awareness. I'm sure you all see the title of the topic this evening. However, before we get started, we always go over disclosure. So let's go ahead and do that.
Sure. So I'm an attorney. Anything that I say this evening does not enter you in the audience and myself into any type of attorney-client relationship. All information expressed this evening is for information purposes as well as entertainment. Uh, Daphnée Renee is a financial entrepreneur. Anything she says does not enter her in any type of fiduciary duty with the audience member, and it's for information purposes as well as entertainment. We do have a guest tonight. Our guest, Maureen Roman, is a expert in her field, and anything she says this evening does not enter you in any type of relationship with her as well. And back to you, Daphnée.
All right. So at this time, we will have a legal segment with Attorney Chameleon.
Sure. So this evening we're going to be talking a little bit since it's Domestic Violence Month, and we're going to focus on domestic violence this evening. I am going to talk about immigration and domestic violence a little bit. So I will be talking about VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act of 1994, and it was an act that was made to protect people, immigrants who are in domestic violence situations, who may need assistance, who may be married to a citizen or green card holder in the process of immigration and be in a violent situation and feel like they have no way out. So VAWA, VAWA, once again, stands for Violence Against Women Act. And so under this VAWA federal, it's a federal act, you may be eligible to become a lawful permanent resident, get your green card, if you're a victim of battery, right? Um, of battery or of extreme cruelty. And it has to be the extreme cruelty, it has to be committed, or battery has to be committed by a U.S. citizen spouse or former spouse, a U.S. citizen parent, a U.S. citizen son or daughter over the age of 21, a lawful permanent resident spouse or former spouse, or a lawful permanent resident parent. And usually in these situations, it's these people have sent for you. Maybe you're in your country, your husband sends for you, your wife sends for you, or your parents send for you, or your kids send for you, and you get here and they're holding your immigration paperwork. They won't file, they won't finish the paperwork, they're threatening you, or they're abusing you, any of those situations. So what's very interesting and unique about VAWA is that if you're in that situation, or let's say you have no papers, you came here maybe on a visitor visa, and you didn't go back to your country, you overstayed, or you were not allowed to go back to your country because you're being abused, you can apply for VAWA. And VAWA is unique because it's a self-petition, right? So that means you file yourself. No one has to file for you. Your relative doesn't have to file for you. You as an individual has to file for yourself. Once you file for yourself, the application, if once approved, you will be eligible to go ahead and file, adjust your status to get a green card. It's very unique in that that you're not going to be forced to leave the country to go back to your country to do consular processing. None of that. You can go ahead and adjust your status while in the United States. You can also get work authorization while you're waiting for your status to be adjusted. So there's a lot of benefits to filing for VAWA. But unfortunately, you'll be in a circumstance where you'll be unfortunately in an abusive circumstance, so you don't want to have to need to file. But if you do, they do offer a lot of benefits for people who are in that situation. Um, VAWA at times used to be difficult providing evidence because if you're in an abusive relationship, let's say your spouse is withholding your immigration paperwork, may even have your passport, and you leave your spouse, you might not have a copy of any of that past paperwork. So in the past, it's been difficult. The immigration has tried to make it a little bit easier on people by adjusting the rules for evidence to prove, because you have to prove that you've been abused. So it's not enough to just say, yes, I was abused. You're going to have to show some proof, whether that's, a police report, people doing affidavits saying that they know that you've been abused, or just whatever evidence that you can think of if you went to a doctor, anything of that nature, any hospital visits. But you will have to show that you prove that you've been abused. But once that's been proved, they've tried to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more understanding, knowing that sometimes people don't have the proper paperwork. And so once it's approved, though, you can go on to adjust your status so that you can get your own green card. The application for VAWA can be found at uscis.gov, which stands for gov. So once again, uscis.gov, and it has, you're looking for, you can type in the search box VAWA, and it'll give you the application and a lot more information on VAWA. The really good thing about VAWA is that it's free. It does not cost you anything to apply. If you have more questions about VAWA, I will, encourage you guys to seek out legal assistance. There is, if you can't afford an attorney, seek out a legal clinic, an immigration clinic, or a legal clinic that offers immigration services. They're all over the United States. Be persistent when you are, because a lot of people, not obviously, but a lot of people are seeking assistance in general, and sometimes it does take time. So I would encourage people to do that. Go look at the rules on the website. If you were married before you got a divorce and the reason for the divorce was the abuse, you can still apply for VAWA, but there is a limitation. So if you were married 10 years ago and you've been divorced for 10 years, you're not going to qualify for VAWA. So you got to go on the website and see what the qualifications are, or seek out legal assistance. You can do it on your own, but I would, in this circumstance, especially with getting the evidence together, especially if you're having difficulty, you don't have a lot of evidence, I would encourage you to go to, and I would always encourage somebody, the first resort is to go to an attorney, but go to an attorney, immigration attorney, and get assistance.
Patients from around the world are paying tribute to singer Mika Ben after.
Back to you, Daphnée. That's a great segue to our next topic.
Am I muted? No. Hello, everyone. I'm Daphnée Antoine. This is Live in Conversation. Attorney Camilien has been explaining to us one resource for any person, it could be male or female, who's experiencing domestic violence. If you are an immigrant, and then this is basically your unfortunate circumstance, there is help, there are resources, and definitely contact a legal clinic, contact Attorney Camilien, and seek help. Seek help. It's important. So with that being said, We already mentioned that this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Particularly this week, October 17th to the 23rd, is a week of action against domestic violence. And so, hence why we're having this conversation this evening to bring awareness. However, before we bring our guests this evening, we do want to acknowledge a deaf and the Haitian community, international community. And then, so that being said, at this time, we want to extend our condolences to the Benjamin family for the passing of the loved one, Michael Benjamin, also known as Mika Ben. He is a global Haitian artist, a three-time Grammy winner, and unfortunately, he passed this October 15th. So we do want to acknowledge that. We do want to send our condolences or prayer to the family. And also the family release a statement thanking everyone for the love, the support, and everything. But they also are warning those of us who care about the family who would like to contribute to be aware of the could be potential scams with regards to GoFundMe being requested under his name. Those are not, I guess, authorized by the family. So let's be aware of that. And then so let's wait for official announcement from the family with regards to paying our respect. So that's what I do want to share this evening. And so now we do have a special guest with us this evening who will be we will be in conversation. So this is a conversation. I encourage you all to join in. I encourage you to share this conversation. And because we are talking about domestic violence, which could be an issue that can be triggered various emotions for people. We will be sharing resources, but if you feel like this is not a conversation you want to take part of, that's okay as well. So this evening we have a social worker with us. She has over 20 years working with family from various communities. And then so her name is Marie Woman, and it is a privilege for us to have her with us this evening. So hello,
Hello, hello,
good
hello. I'm
evening.
also known as Marie Bourgoin.
Yeah, but when
Aisne.
I
um,
you know, yeah.
gotta have the AKA alias.
So let me actually have you introduce yourself. Who is Marie?
uh, oh gosh. I'm
We got
Marie.
this.
People who know me as Marie. I, I that's I'm here.
You here?
I'm
So
here.
how are you
When
work
you've
as
always
a
asked
social?
that question, it's complicated. So I just keep it here. I'm here. I'm present. I want to say thank you, Daphne. You guys threw me off. Both names are Daphne. I was like, wait a minute. I thought her name was,
Yeah.
yeah. Reached out to me to just share some resources. And basically, if you ask me who am I? This is what I do. I am always ready to help provide resources to anyone that is in need or is in contemplation in any aspect of your life. All I could do is pass information, and what you do with it is what you do with it. And that's who I
Yes.
am. I help people access resources so they can make better decisions or just look for better outcomes in their lives, or just help provide solutions to where we're stuck at the moment, and we work through it.
Awesome. And it's so you are in the social worker field, and obviously it is a field that is there to help people, to empower people, as you mentioned, with resources, to help them with different aspect in their lives. And then so basically, what prompted this career choice to be a social worker?
Um, well, I I think I was like in middle school, and I was talking to the school social worker, and then I found out what she did was try to help the kids, and then help families, and I got this weird idea in my head that I want to help people. At the time, being young, I thought I wanted to save people, but in especially in this field, as you go along, you realize that I'm not here to save people. I'm here to help you. Here to advocate for you, empower you, give you resources so you can empower yourself. So I feel that also. I always crack a joke and say that I think that and somewhere, God looking down, he probably like pointed out to me and be like, hey, I got something for you. I just needed you to listen to me and we're going to do this. So I honestly feel it was a calling from above in terms of the work that I have done. I have tried many times to run away from it, but it keeps drawing me back. And but the good thing, I think, that God has provided me a lot of opportunities to not just stay stuck in one setting as a social worker. I've worked in just different communities, different populations. I've worked with um, adults, children with special needs, disabilities. I've worked with children and family services in different capacities. I've done crisis management. Now I've transitioned more into like healthcare management services, but it's definitely been a journey as far as the social work. And I've also had the joy in terms of just seeing life at its best and also at its worst. So I think that when I do um, try to provide people with resources or the word help, I think that honestly, because of what the experiences I've had, I think that I have a pretty good grasp of understanding of different cultures, different dynamics in terms of how that plays a role in terms of why people are where they're at. And then, but the biggest thing is like, I just love to see people move and grow from where they think they're stuck at, where they think they need to be, or what society has told them that they need to be, and just move to be something different. And what's close to my heart is definitely anything that has to do with women's issues, women's healthcare issues, because I always believe that it starts in the womb as far as nurturance. And I guess back as Oprah said, is if you educate a young girl, you are educating a society. So I am always ready to give a helping hand to a young lady, a young girl, as far as providing her with resources, education, and resources are just not always like, oh, well, take this number, but just education. Or I think I gave you some, Daphne. Just
Yes,
planting.
definitely.
Sometimes a resource could just be planting a seed, a different idea in someone's head, away from what their current circumstances are or what they've been told that they need to be. And then having them have that seed. And like a seed, you have to water it. You have to give it different, sometimes different environments don't work for it. But then I've seen, seeds grow into their full potential. And that I think is what is what keeps me going, is knowing that people have the capacity to change once they find the power, once they find that they can do it, and once they find the resources, the help that they need to go.
Thank. Oh,
I
good.
was, I was gonna say, a lot of times, the police, they say like the most dangerous calls that they receive are domestic calls because it's volatile, right? In the law, family, it's the same thing. It's similar for like family law as far as like it's so volatile. So if somebody like, let's say a friend finds out um, someone is being abused and they want to do something, what would you recommend that they do?
I think the word is in terms of how do you interpret how the word do.
So if so, oh, okay. So I was gonna say, do you
I'm
want
going
me
to
to
go more into
elaborate?
that because I
Okay, go ahead. Go
think
ahead.
with domestic violence, and I think what Daphne has said is like, it is a very taboo subject in society. It's a very taboo subject in households, in families. So um, I may want to do um, I may want to run and grab this person who's being abused and shelter them. But um, statistics shows that with domestic violence, that for women or someone in an abusive relationship, it takes, and if they get that opportunity, they leave it takes 7 times for them to finally leave that abuser. So that's why I said the word do, is that we generally want to save people. Like, this person has an injury, or I saw this person with a black eye, and I want to tell them, okay, come spend the night with me. Don't go back home to this person. You should leave him. We jump to these really immediate protective measures. But with domestic violence, those immediate protective measures could have sometimes life-threatening consequences to that woman I won't even say woman, let's just put it, the term
Person.
domestic violence could come in so many situations. It can come from partner, it could even come from someone you live in a household. It could be a sibling, so it could be it's not always partner, like intimate relationship. That's what we always come to think about is that. So when we say what we're going to do, you have to really think about um, the overall the situation. And most of the time, we're not going to know what the situation is. You see what you see, or they tell you what's being told at the time. So it's very complex. So the way I would say it is that in any crisis situation, what you can do, first thing you can do is be a listening ear. Just listen. Just listen. See what this person is willing to tell you, what they want to tell you. And from that conversation, you could always ask, is like, is there anything you want me to do? Because I could want to do things. But if you're not ready to do those things, or if those things that I suggest you're going to do are going to put you in danger, going to put your children in danger, someone in your family in danger, I've shut that door for you to come back to me as a helping hand. So that's why I always say the first thing you should do is just listen, just be a voice, just be an ear. And ask the person, what is it that what do you want? What are you willing to do? Where do you want to go? Or do you not want to go? Just listen and see where they're at, because they might just tell you about an incident that occurred, and then you're shocked. You're like, oh my gosh, like, why are you even here? Why are you still standing here? You should do this. You should have called the police. You should have did all this. You should do all that. But if they're not ready, because the police gets called, you're an attorney, the police gets called, and they remove the person from the situation, let's say. But if that person is not willing to go through the legal system to press charges, and the person comes back home to them, you're actually putting them, the danger heightens. So if that person is willing to follow and legally and take action, then there's much more you can do. So each case by case has to be assessed. And I know that sometimes hearing that is a shock, because initially that's all we want to protect, that person that we love or that friend. But the problem is that you may think it's abuse. I may think it's abuse. We know it's abuse, but she's just like, he had a rough day. This is how we do it. This is how we. This is what it is, or this is what I deserve. This is how he shows me he loves me. I'm just using he because I'm just going to use that as general. So she might have been programmed or been, because we don't know how long or has been going on, that this is the norm. This is how love should go. I deserve this. I didn't have his dinner on time. I was on Facebook too long. And yeah, you're my sister. You see me, you stop by the house. I'm just using these general terms. You know that this man is putting his hands on me because you see my marks and bruises. But if I'm saying, oh, I fell down the stairs, or I walked the dog and then I bumped my head, it's kind of like, are you going to have that confrontation? Are you at the place with this person, have that conversation? Like, no, girl, you know that this isn't right. It depends on the level of relationship you have with this person too, to call them out and make them be accountable. But then during that accountability, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to risk that person's safety? Are you willing to risk that person being able to come back to you when they really are ready to need you, feel like they have somewhere to trust? Or are you just willing to just, what I say is, listen, take information, and then see what this person needs and say, hey, this is a phone number. You can call this. You can call this.
Great information. Definitely, it is important to find out exactly what the person needs, because as you mentioned, if the person is not ready, whatever that we we feel like is appropriate, it's not helpful. And then so the reason that I reach out to you to be part of this conversation this evening is Monday I had a similar conversation, but then in respect to the faith, um, religion, and then so I guess you saw the live, and then you were ready to share resources and basically be part of the conversation and sharing your knowledge. And then so what prompted you, like, I don't want to say attracted for lack of better words. It's like what prompted you to engage in that conversation, and why was it important for you to share your knowledge and share your resources and to be a voice?
Again, like I said, as far as advocating for women and their rights and giving education and resources, that's just where my heartbeat goes. Domestic violence is something that is 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 core to the heart, because at some point in time, I mean, I don't want to go into my own personal stories, but I can say I am a living testimony in terms of what change could do, as far as getting to a place in my life where I realized my value and what I deserved and what God put me in this world to get, to receive, and what I can give to people too. So whenever that topic comes, and then also I think you had it in terms of as a intersect into a faith, like love should be kind, love should be patient, love should not hurt. And also I think the one of the things you're saying is like the church is used as a community-based resource. um, I The church is a great resource if you have a connection, if you have a great um, support system in the church, and you have people to pray with you, because you need spiritual guidance, even as you need, just like you need a counselor, just like you need a lawyer, just like you need a doctor. I think it's all part of that community team that you need to get you through these, especially something like this. So I think I would just, in terms of just providing information, because especially your show is more to educate and give resources to the Haitian community. I think domestic violence is something that's very taboo. We don't talk about it. It's quiet. It's kind of just a lot of cultures, you sweep it under the rug, but it is happening. There is no face. There's no color to it. You could be living in a $3 million house and be covering up your bruises with makeup while you go to like a black tie affair, versus you could be living like, I guess, in a car and getting beaten, and still trying to protect your kids and do what you need to do to try to preserve your family unit. So because it's such a wide thing, I think that we all as women need to just understand, because I think the first thing you always say is women be like, oh, that would never be me, or I can't believe that's going on with her, or why doesn't she leave, or why, we're so quick to judge when we hear that word, without really sitting back and really trying to really understand. And for some people, it's hard to understand. And like you said at first, it's a very touchy subject. And it could trigger a lot of responses for people, depending on what their stories and what happened. And a lot of times no one knows what happened, but it triggers you. But I just want to make sure that it's out there. It's known that there is help, that there is a plan. You may not get it, and it's okay if you're listening to here and again, it's just dropping a seed, that if you're not ready to go, you're preserving your family, you're keeping things together, because society has told you that you have to, perfect house, smile on your face, kids are dressed right, you're at church praying as a family unit, and things are not always what it seems. It's okay. You may not be there, so not to feel bad, but also to understand that like you said, like love should not
Hurt.
equal pain or hurt.
Mhm. Uh, do you have a question, Attorney Camilla, before I jump in? Because I have more questions.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you say, Marie, but it's extremely hard to, if it's an acquaintance or a friend that's not that close, but if it's, for example, if it's my best friend, um I don't know if I could just listen. I have, like, I mean, you talked about, and I'm a person, I became a lawyer because I wanted to help people, right? And I believe, like, I have that spirit, like most, and I just feel like everybody channels it in different ways, like different professions and just different ways, but very much so, like, you want to, like you said, almost save someone, right? Versus just help them. So I'm definitely that. So just hearing that makes me like, uh my my blood boil. Like, are you crazy? Like, I'll take over this situation. Like, I can't imagine if, like, my best friend called me and I'm like, girl, I'll be over there.
But
I'm taking you out of this.
that's not to say that, like, if I mean, I have, hey, hey, we got this,
Okay.
but I know where that level is with that person too. But also too, I'll just share that I've had a great friendship where she called out like she wasn't ready, and I was the bad guy. Everything was turned on me. So you have to, every situation is different.
Right.
And I know what you said, your blood is boiling.
Mhm.
But at the same time though, as far as like I've learned with like friendship is that like and you, everyone could have their own opinion. um it, your friend might call you at that time, but is your friend ready to leave that person? Because
Right.
if I come there with the bat and I'm ready to blow, do whatever,
Right.
I'm I'm beating him up, and then next day you're back, you're back with him
Right.
walking down the street, and then it's kind of like, okay, well,
Yeah.
like,
But
so it's a very, like, it's a very touchy, and I would say approach it with caution,
Mhm.
because maybe that friend is that night that they call you, maybe that is that night they're ready to go, everybody's ready to go, they're ready to go, they're ready to go. So it's not like we can't just put it all in one jar,
Right. That's
because
true.
because each situation is different. And then also with domestic violence or any like domestic situation, there's different levels of it boiling, there's different levels of it. And the I guess back to, I think what Daphnée was saying, the initial part, but I think the first part is like, is really starting with the younger girls in terms of recognizing value, self, um, dealing with some of that emotional trauma that they have that kind of keeps women or people in these relationships that end up being hurtful to them, because that's what they know, that's what they assimilate love with. So I think that would be the first thing that could be done, is really having these conversations at a younger age with younger people as they're dating, saying that, hey, you know, red flags.
Right.
They're just not, I'm having a bad day. Yeah, people have a bad day, but those things, those red flags turn out to burn a house down at the end of the day, you know? So, but I think as like a friend, it's like having that listening ear. But, action may be required, but you have to see it's all case by case and where that person is at. And how do you know where a person is at? It's by the person telling you what they want. That's why I say you ask them, what do you want? Like, what do you want for yourself? What can I help you with?
yes.
Right.
And then so we talk about, we use the word domestic violence, but then I think we should define it as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then so one of the resources that you shared with me, Mrs. Goman, is the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a matter of fact, let me share my screen so I can show this.
And I could,
Yeah.
while
So
you're looking
healing
at
is
that,
he-
I can, oh gosh, I had it pulled up as
yeah.
far as,
I actually,
yeah,
if you see,
defining abuse.
yep,
What is abuse? What is considered domestic?
abuse,
What is considered
exactly.
domestic abuse? And I know I said that doesn't necessarily have to come
Yeah.
from the
Mm-hmm.
person that you are having an intimate relationship with, but it's usually it's intimate partner violence, dating abuse, or relationship abuse. It's a pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over another partner in an intimate relationship. Now, a lot of times with domestic violence, it's um, there's a lot of behaviors that come before the physical.
Yes.
And I think I had sent that. There's this thing if you want people want to look at it. It's called the power and control wheel.
Yes, I can
Um,
go there.
yes.
Basically, identify abuse, power, and control. Uh, it's right here.
Okay.
Uh,
And
um,
this is something that anybody could Google and they can get hold of
yes.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of doing a self reflection check in terms of your relationship and where you're at. And you could see that it could be simply thing as isolation. Like let's say you were a very social person and you're in this relationship. Yes, everybody when you get into these relationships, especially it's getting cold, people want to be in the house. But if that person is telling you can't go see your cousins, you can't go to your mother's house, slowly but surely your contact with the people that where your support system starts dwindling away because you don't have access. Or if you have access, that person has to be with you all the time when you have it to be in those settings. Your children, minimizing and blaming, making you feel bad about yourself, even something like throwing out the garbage. You can't do stuff like that right. Um, those are some of the smaller, like little seeds that start being planted, and in different ways, people do it different. Financial manipulation, using economic abuse. You know, you go work, you bring home the paycheck, you get maybe $10, or you can't spend a penny, or all the money you have no access to any money, even if you have children. Let's say there was emergency, you need $5, you got to make a phone call. Can I get $5? Again, that doesn't mean that that's abuse. Certain households, certain people, that's how they operate. I'm not saying that that's abuse, but sometimes economics could be used as a control, coercion, intimidation. So all these are more, you could say, psychological things that usually occur before usually the physical violence. But
And
this is a really good tool for just to take inventory. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's someone you're like, this person does, this person, I see this happening. And so the next thing is, you see this happening to someone that you love. How do you approach someone that you love in terms of that? I think it's just having that conversation and saying, hey, I have an open, non-judgmental ear. If there's anything that you need, or anything I could say, we could talk about it. You see a mark or a bruise, if let's say that's your sister, this friend will be like, you know what? I noticed you, like, your arms are always covered up, and then they pull it up. And this happened to a friend of mine, and then she told me she had like a bunch of marks on her wrist, and then she just laughed and said it was the iron. And I'm like, I know you don't iron, girl, but but no iron burns you like across your arm that way. But just watching how she tensed up and just was not ready to have that conversation, I just said, okay, you don't want to talk about what happened, but I'm like, you know what? If there's anything you need, you got my number. If you need help with the kids, you got my number. Here's my number. You can call me, text me, call me if there's anything you need. So obviously that person was not ready to go there. And I didn't have that relationship with her to just call her out and be like, yeah, those are marks, those are bruises. I know you lying to me. I could not approach her that way because she also was fully in denial. Now, if she had said, yes, he grabbed me because of this and that and that. Then we could start having this conversation saying, okay, well, you know, you deserve more than that. I love you. I don't want to see you hurt. Your family loves you. What is it that you need? What can we do? Also, too, one of the things is like with resources is like women need to be able to have a place where they can develop a plan. Because if they do decide or if they do need to leave, where are they going to go? Who are they going to call? Who's going to come pick them up? So that's where like some of these numbers that I think Daphnée is going to show are really good because they are 1-800 numbers. And what I tell women sometimes is you could plug those numbers on your phone and put them under a girlfriend's name or somebody's name. And it's 24-hour hotline. And these are trained professionals. So if you are in a situation that you need to get out, they will talk you through it. They will provide you with local resources in the community. And sometimes law enforcement is called because so much noise, the neighbors hear or someone calls. And then they will do what they need to do to remove the person from the premises. But a lot of times they come back. They come back.
Okay. I guess before I go ahead and share on those resources, and is the answer always living? Because we talk. I mean, obviously, it's different families have different need and different perspective. And especially, and the reason that I wanted us to define domestic violence is because different culture, as you mentioned, may see one thing as domestic violence and the other one not see it that way. And then so that's why it's important to, as you are doing, show the different layers of how it could potentially increase. I mean, more than one or more than two or three, it's gearing towards that. And so that's why it was important for us to define it, and then talking about like the next step, and for someone who wants to preserve the relationship, like what's the alternative aside from just leaving?
I honestly I can't answer that. I would not
Yeah,
give like that
yeah,
advice because
yeah.
everyone's situation, again, remember I said is
Yes,
it's
it's different.
each case. Um, I just would advise anyone that if your personal safety is being threatened by someone who lacks self-control, maybe there needs to be a possible some type of protective plan in place, whether it's leaving or you know, and Camille, you could talk to this about more. You people do orders of protections. um I'm not a lawyer, I'm not law enforcement.
Yes, so we understand that.
They
Yeah.
work. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they heighten the threat for people. So it all depends on the situation. Again, from a biblical perspective, you know, it's a family unit. You want to work to preserve it. It all depends on the level of violence, the level of what this person is doing to you, because it's not just the physical, it's also the emotional, the psychological. And then also, too, if there are 9 times out of 10, there's children in the house, is this really the environment that the children need to be on where one adult is being hurt and the other one lacks the self-control? People, yes, there are rehabilitative services, counseling for couples, individual therapy, there's anger management. But again, I don't want to say, well, yes, people should do that because certain things are just too much to be preservation. There's some people that can be rehabilitated and there's some that can't.
Well, and I think orders of protection are available to people. Emergency orders of protection, they are temporary until you have to go to court. But as far as like immediate assistance, you can get orders of protection. But I think what you said, in general, having a plan is really important in anything that you do. I think it'll make the person feel like they have more control if they do have numbers stored or hidden or whatever. Just places where knowing that someone can come pick them up. Also knowing, especially if financial abuse is a part of it, which oftentimes it is. Uh, can they get assistance from the state? Can they get assistance for food and shelter and for their children? And what would it look like if they had to pull their kids out? And can they let like there's so many things that that they would have to that they need to look into, that maybe a shelter, or knowing that information, that emergency contact information could assist them, having a secret bag or whatever the person does. But number one, in anything that you do, legal, medical, anything that you do, they always tell you that if there is a safety issue, you got to go. That's not something that you can. That will always be advised to seek assistance if if your child's life is in danger. So yeah, I don't know about, it's interesting you said, do you always have to go? If the person is not willing to seek help, then I don't know if there's any other option.
Yeah. So I guess what we are doing this evening is just planting the seed, have the conversation, and then that's part of us taking action and bringing awareness. And obviously we have this code. It's all that Mrs. Goldman wanted to share with us is we cannot force someone to hear a message they are not ready to receive, but we must never underestimate the power of planting a seed. So we've planted the seed, we've shared the info, we had the conversation. We encourage you, if you or someone you know is experiencing that domestic violence, share this conversation. And at this time, we will be sharing various resources, community organization, which are available and can be helpful. Anything else before I started sharing the resources?
No.
No? Okay. All right. So as a matter of fact, let me, Mrs. Woman sent me a few. Let me, as a matter of fact, just go there. No. Mhm. All right. So is this being shown?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a phone
Yeah.
number,
Yes. Okay. So we have the
but it's small, so you probably have to say it
small.
louder.
Yeah, I think I gotta make it bigger.
Yeah,
Okay.
or probably say it as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me stop my screen. Okay. So one of the organization is Between Friends. So the website is betweenfriendschicago.org. It's also in the description of this live. Um, and so Between Friends is in the Chicagoland area. And the crisis hotline number is 800-603-4357. Again, that's 800-603 4357. Let me see, make sure I can share the screen. I love when people can see it themselves. Okay, so here is Between Friends. It is an organization helping survivor or victim of domestic violence, and then so you can also reach out to them, the various programs. They do have a 24-hour hotline, which I believe is also the Illinois domestic violence hotline.
Yeah.
So that's the Illinois domestic violence hotline that they utilize. So 800-603-4357. They will tell you different resources, whether that's counseling, whether that's shelter, um, legal advice. So any sort of help that you would need. So we also have the National Domestic Violence hotline as well, which we shared earlier.
And one thing about these resources is that you don't necessarily have to wait until it's a crisis to start using these resources. If you feel that you are in a situation and you're questioning your situation, you can start speaking to a counselor today or tomorrow, whenever. And they will start helping you figure it out, sort it out. They help people come up with plans because sometimes, you thinking you're in a situation, it's hard for you to plan for yourself. Um, I have seen people go call these numbers for months. I had a woman one time, she was calling the hotline for 2 years straight until she finally, it took her 2 years from her first hotline call to finally get up the courage and resources and a plan. She felt safe to be able to make that change for her and her children.
Yes. So another resource is a Chicago Battered Metropolitan Women's Network, and the phone number is 312-527-0730. So we'll definitely go ahead and add those in the comments, even though it's also in the description of the live. But we do want to make a point to say them live as well, so that we all know there are resources, and let's take advantage of them. Especially most of them, I would say it could be of no cost to you. As well as the Lilac Tree Center for Divorce Resources. And then the website for that is the Lilac, that's LILAC tree.org. What else? Oh, and as a matter of fact, the YWCA Metropolitan of Chicago. And so the phone number is 888-293-2080. And let me stop my screen. All right, it is 9:04. I do want to say thank you, Mrs. Goldman, Attorney Camillian, for being with us this evening to have this important conversation. So it is a seed. It's basically a way for us to take action. This is how we are taking action, and for you watching us, you can take action as well, whether that be bringing awareness, whether that's supporting one of those organizations that we've just mentioned, maybe connecting with an organization, see how you can help the families that they are trying to help, whether you are volunteering your time or providing donations, any way that we can support women and families, and as well as men who potentially can be in a domestic violence relationship. Children, we know that if there are children in the household, they are affected as well. So it is a society issue, and we should definitely take it to heart, and we should definitely be part of the solution.
No,
Any last word?
definitely. No, this was a very informative talk. Thank you so much for coming, Marie.
Thank you. And I got you, Daphnée. I know, like you say, you want
I want to fight. I'm ready to fight.
You want to fight. You want to fight. You want to fight to protect what we love. I mean, we want to, and that's just that's who we are. But it's but with certain situations though too, I've learned is like I always tell like my clients and that it's like I can't run. I can't if it's a race, I can't be the one out on the field running your laps for you while you're on the side. You gotta want it as much as I want it for you. And so there again, there are some people we're all gonna go down fighting and pull you out, you're gonna be okay. But it's kind of like if that person's not, you're fighting for them, and then the next day they're Netflix and chilling.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard for us to see anybody we love be hurt, in hurtful situations, and or continually make a choice that's not in their best. I won't even say I won't. Domestic violence is not a bad choice.
Yes.
Because it's such a level to get to the point where you realize that when you're victimized, that this is not the way that love should look like. It takes so much more for a person who's been victimized, who's been abused, to get to that point. But you see it for them, but if they can't see it for themselves, then it's hard. It's heartbreaking.
And so just close off, because the conversation that I had Monday was about like the church responsibility to raise awareness, to be a resource, and to have transparency when it comes to those topics. And I think that that should apply to, various community organizations, and especially those of us who are part of the Haitian community, to basically have safe place where we can have those conversations, where we can educate. Because if we are not doing what we're doing now to educate and let people know this is wrong, and then you should be treated better, you are deserving of respect, you are deserving of love, then I think people are not going to have that courage to talk about it, because maybe they don't feel like they're being listened to, or maybe they don't feel like there's any outlet uh, to share those experiences. And so that's why it's important for all of us to have this conversation, to educate ourselves first, so that we can potentially help provide solution, depending on what phase this person is and what they are willing and able to accept. So thank you for being part of this conversation. Let us continue to
Mhm.
do as much as we can, to share as much as we can, to discuss as much as we can, because it's an ever continued issue.
Thank you for providing the space so this conversations could start being had.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And Attorney Chameleon, thank you for sharing, I guess, the legal aspect when it comes to undocumented women or men who unfortunately may be going through the situation, to know that there is an outlet. Because sometimes people stay in various relationships because they need to stay because of the lack of documents. And then so for now, to let them know, you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship just because you're undocumented, is definitely a relief, I would say. And then so if you are someone who currently are undocumented and currently going through a domestic violence relationship, know that you can reach out to any legal clinics, or you can also reach out to the, Attorney Chameleon, so that we can help direct you, to share with you the various resources. In Chicago being a sanctuary city, there are various, many organizations, and I'm sure those organizations that we mentioned as well, who are willing to help you regardless of your status. So
I
that, oh
I
yes,
just wanted to add one more thing because I don't think I emphasize this because we talk oftentimes about spouse spousal, but it's parental abuse too and kids. So
mm,
kids can self petition for themselves. So and the
mm,
parents. So if they brought the parents over, they start abusing, just crazy, but they start abusing the parents. Parents can petition for themselves too. But yes, I just wanted to add that. So it's not just
yes.
couples, it's parents and kids as well.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. It is important. Knowledge is power,
For
and now
sure.
that you have the knowledge, go ahead and do something with it. That's it for this evening. This was live in conversation. We want to let you know, regardless of the situation that you are in right now, you are not responsible for it. You are not a victim. And so go ahead and reach out to people who can help you. And let us all love on each other, respect each other, because at the end of the day, everyone is deserving of love. Have a good night. See you all next Wednesday.
Bye.